It violates international law, right? And this sort of represents this new, I've never seen it before, for the president of the United States to kill, I believe he killed over, the U.S. government killed over 100 people, including civilians and military, in Venezuela during this kidnapping and capture. And international law doesn't allow it unless unless Congress declares war, and Congress did not do that.
Maybe it's just me, but it seems like Uncle Casey's personal favorite yenta, Asuncion. It seems like Sunny Hostin developed a little bit of a stutter over Christmas break. During the immaculate return of the yentas yesterday morning, Sunny Hostin seemed to be having a little bit of trouble finding her words. Either she developed a slight speech impediment, or Sunny Hostin was speechless. Sunny Hostin was absolutely mesmerized by the overwhelming levels of toxic masculinity that were displayed by the Trumper last weekend. You know, it's been a while since we have talked about the yentas here on the channel, mainly because I was worried that I was starting to lose my sense of smell. Between the toxic mouth farts and the incredibly powerful boodle breeze that can only be produced by the whoopee cushion, my nostrils were becoming immunized to the smell of toxic gas. God forbid we have a natural gas leak in the house. I was worried that I would not be able to smell the mercaptan, which is the chemical added to natural gas to make it smell like one of Whoopi Goldberg's farts. I want you to think about something for a second. Think about how far doofus Democrats have fallen. And I'm not just talking about their approval ratings, which are resting next to CNN's ratings in the pooper. From a moral perspective, from an American values perspective, just think about how far doofus Democrats have fallen. In the last few years, the party of the donkey has pushed gender-affirming care on kids. Hell, they were probably pushing gender-affirming care on the party donkey. Don't call him a jackass, even though he's got a gargantuan set of nuts. We don't know how the donkey chooses to identify. You must refer to him as the questioning ass. Democrats have fully embraced Zorro Mamdani and become the party of communism under the failed leadership of our former fearless leader Johnny B. Biden and, to some extent, Barry Obama. They were bringing in thousands of Somalian immigrants, thousands of Islamists. They brought in thousands, maybe even millions of people who had no intention of assimilating to our culture. Matter of fact, they seem to want us to assimilate to their culture, which means they want America to be a third world dump. Democrats have embraced China. Instead of flying American flags, Elizabeth Warren is flying rainbow flags next to her fire pit as she sends smoke signals to her pretend husband Squanto. And now, these unbelievable assholes, they are attempting to defend a radical dictator. They're attempting to defend the alleged leader of a drug cartel. Defending Nicolas Maduro. It is the equivalent of defending Pablo Escobar back in the 80s and 90s. And they are using their increasingly irrelevant propagandists in the mainstream media to convince us that dismantling a communist dictator in our own hemisphere is somehow bad for America. But believe it or not, there was one lady yesterday morning who clearly missed the production meeting on The View. There was one yenta who failed to read her required talking points, and she was quick to let Sunny Hostin know that she's full of shit. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel's in the description below. Earlier today on the second channel, talked about the NFL exploiting their own fan base again by putting the most compelling matchup of the playoffs this weekend behind a paywall. I explain why the NFL continues to do this and why I think we are rapidly reaching the point where we will be paying to watch the Super Bowl. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. Also, just a reminder, I will be out of town tomorrow taking one of my dogs to a specialist. I intend to get at least one video uploaded tomorrow, but if I don't, we will be back to our regular schedule on Thursday. Yesterday morning, Sunny Hostin started 2026 by releasing an unbelievable toxic mouth fart. Normally, once the gas has been released and her other panelists have been intoxicated by it, this would be the point where they praise Sun for her radiance and her brilliance. Oh, Sunny, how did you get so smart? I didn't know capturing an international fugitive was a violation of international law. Does this mean we can finally arrest the Trumper again? Whoopee! Who gives a damn about international law? Who is even responsible for enforcing international law? Is it the UN, the United Nations? If so, last I checked, America was the primary subsidizer to the United Nations. We're the ones responsible for keeping that turd afloat. Growing up, my dad always told me, he who has the gold makes the rules. With that being the case, if America is funding the UN and the UN is responsible for international law, then we are the ones making the rules. If we want to break those rules, there's not a damn thing Nicolas Maduro can do about it. Unfortunately for Sunny Hostin, she was not met with the usual praise and adulation after her painfully boring soliloquy. Instead, Ana Navarro, the lady that's married to the Pepperidge Farm guy, she got a bit emotional. She got a little bit heated as she aggressively reminded Sunny Hostin that she's full of shit. Watch for yourself.
Who voted for this? The people in South Florida. The Venezuelan community, the Cuban American community, the Nicaraguan American community voted for this. And for us, this is a very, very happy day when we see a dictator who has been part of oppressing and abusing the Venezuelan people for 25 years, when we see him in handcuffs and held to some sort of accountability. It brought me into tears. It brought me great joy.
Are you okay with the way that it was done?
But you can, I think both things can be true.
Okay.
I think you can criticize and ask questions and have concerns about the way it was done and what this means in the future.
Right.
And I think you can still celebrate that this murderous, corrupt, sadistic son of a bitch is out of Venezuela.
It's not very often that Uncle KC agrees with one of the yentas on The View. It's not very often that one of the ladies releases a logical thought. It's damn sure not very often that they speak the truth, but Ana Navarro was speaking the truth. No one is happier that Nicolas Maduro was captured than the people of Venezuela. And to their credit, the good people of Venezuela, they are denouncing anyone, and by anyone, I mean the people living with white guilt here in America who are protesting on behalf of Nicolas Maduro. The citizens of Venezuela, they are denouncing anyone who is attacking the Trumper for dethroning Nikki. For decades, people in Venezuela have been oppressed. And I'm not talking about the mythical oppression that woke white women pretend to live under here in America. I am talking about real oppression. Back in the 1950s, Venezuela was one of the most prosperous countries in the world. What happened? If you voted for Zorro Mamdani in New York City, I want you to pay very close attention because communism or democratic socialism, whatever the hell you want to call it, that is what happened to Venezuela. People in Venezuela went from having jobs, having money, to having to chase cows down the street to get a piece of beef. But Casey, Don Trump promised to be America first. We don't want nation building. We don't want to be involved in regime change. Like I told you guys the other day, this is different than Georgie Bush trying to push American democracy to Islamic dumps in the Middle East. The Trumper is trying to give freedom to a nation that used to be free. He is pushing regime change in a culture that is similar to ours. But put nation building to the side for just a second. Let's go back to America first, and you tell me if this is putting America first. Contrary to the belief of Tucker Carlson, our biggest domestic threat is political Islam. But globally, and especially economically, our biggest threat is China. In terms of oil, guess who Venezuela's largest customer is? China. Oil, which is now controlled by America. Venezuela also has one of the largest supplies of unmined gold. Gold, which is now controlled by America. Guess where China also purchases discounted oil from? Iran, a country that's already been decimated by the Trumper and is on the verge of collapse. Which means Don Trump has interrupted China's supply chain of arguably their most valuable resource. Without an abundance of oil, China can't compete in the AI race. It potentially weakens their military, which could temporarily prevent them from attacking Taiwan. More importantly, it removes Chinese influence from our hemisphere. In just 12 months, the Trumper has decimated Iran. He's working on dismantling the Muslim Brotherhood here in America, and he has potentially weakened China. Someone please explain to me how that is not America first. But KC Don broke a promise. He promised not to get us involved in another war. What war? Who are we at war with? Is Iran going to attack us? They are dealing with their own people rising against the regime. Is Venezuela going to attack us? Their people are celebrating the Trumper. They're celebrating America. What is Russia gonna do? They have spent the last 3 or 4 years not being able to conquer Ukraine. For the first time in decades, the world has been put on notice. America is no longer messing around. Don Trump ain't talking, he's doing. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.